So my research is around areas of extended voice, and that's in part taken from Andy Clark's article about extended mind, looking at extended cognition and ideas of embodied cognition. So there's two really interesting key points in there to do with body image and body schema. So body image is the way in which we perceive our bodies, our emotional experience of our bodies, and that's in part informed by our prior experience and beliefs. And then there's body schema, which is a sensory motor system of an awareness of our bodies in space. And what's interesting about these two capacities is that they impact on each other in that the way that we perceive our own bodies impacts on the capabilities of our bodies. So I wanted to think about this in relation to voice, and I thought about, a voice image would be the way in which we experience our voice, our emotional attitudes towards our voice, and then a voice schema would be our capabilities for voice. So if there was a sound at the back of the room, my voice might naturally increase gain and volume to take account of that. It's quite a fluid process. And I think one of the things that I found interesting was there's a sense where I guess we crossed over to do with the gaze, is that there's an idea of a perception of your body relates to your social interaction and the way there's an experience of being seen and being looked at. And the experience of being looked at impacts upon your experience of self. And so I wanted to think about, in terms of a voice image, the experience of being heard. And that in the way in which voice image and voice schema impress upon each other, that an experience of being heard impacts on an ability to be heard. And I think in terms of power dynamics, it's quite important to think that people who have an experience of being heard in the world, so perhaps people in authority and being in a position of power, have a greater capacity to continue to be heard. And people who are not heard or don't experience being heard have less capacity to be heard. And I think what we were talking about in terms of that idea of the gaze, to have a body that sees is to have a body that can be seen, talks about your work to do with the gaze, and I know you're interested in the disembodied gaze through.
So this sort of reversibility I think you're referring to, the hearing being heard and the seeing and being seen, it's interesting for me because has been sort of unnaturalized and is happening through different form of engineering, both of the gaze in my case and of the voice in your case, and the megaphone is one of these, is a good example for this.
Yeah.
And this is an example that is talking also about the political implication of this form of engineering. And yes, in my case, I've been interested in addressing this form of engineering as form of or processes of disembodying of the gaze. And